Am I the asshole for choosing my parents over my girlfriend and leaving her to take care of our child? I never thought my life would take such a turn. I had it all figured out, or at least I thought I did. When I was younger, I used to daydream about my future, about having a family, a career in medicine, and a life where everything made sense. But like most things in life, reality didn't follow the script I had in my head. It all started when I was 19 in the middle of my internship at a local nursing home. The program was mandatory for my medical studies, something that every student in my country had to go through before even thinking about a career in healthcare. I had no idea that this internship would be the turning point in my life, a defining moment that would shape everything that came after it. I wasn't particularly outgoing. If I'm honest, I was socially awkward, a trait that I had accepted as part of who I was. The thought of spending time with strangers, especially in a setting like a nursing home, was intimidating. I was there to do my work and that was it. At least that's what I told myself. I wasn't expecting anything more than just completing my hours and moving on. But then I met her. She was responsible for overseeing the interns, making sure everything ran smoothly and making sure we had everything we needed. She was older, more experienced, and confident in a way I could never hope to be. Her name was Lila, and she was the kind of person who could make everyone around her feel at ease, even if she had never met you before. She was easy to talk to, funny, and had this way of making even the most mundane moments seem meaningful. At first, I didn't think much of her. Sure, I admired her from a distance, but she was my supervisor. I was there to work, and anything outside of that was irrelevant. We had a lot in common, though. We both had an interest in social issues, mental health, and the human side of medicine. The more we talked, the more I realized we could spend hours discussing the same topics without ever getting bored. She made me feel seen in a way that no one else had before. But there was one particular event that changed everything. One of the elderly residents I had grown close to passed away during one of my days off. His death hit me harder than I ever expected. I spent days feeling hollow, like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, even though I knew death was a part of the job. I didn't know how to process it. My colleagues told me it was normal, that everyone felt this way at some point, but that didn't make it any easier. That's when Lila stepped in. She had been through the same things and more. She understood the weight of it all in a way that no one else could. We started talking more, not just about the job but about everything. She had been through her own struggles, had faced her own demons, and somehow, it made me feel like I wasn't alone in mine. There were nights when we'd stay after work, talking for hours about everything and nothing. She became my safe space. As the weeks went by, I found myself relying on her more and more, not just for guidance but for emotional support. It wasn't just about the job anymore, it was about life. The conversations deepened, and with each one, I felt myself growing closer to her. Eventually, I gathered the courage to ask for her number. To my surprise, she said yes. From there, things escalated quickly. What started as casual text messages turned into late-night phone calls and spontaneous meetups. I found myself spending more and more time at her place, often staying the night. For me, it was a new world, a world I wasn't entirely sure I was ready for. But she made it feel right. She made me feel like I mattered, like my awkwardness was something she didn't just tolerate but embraced. 2 months later, after a lot of late-night conversations and moments that felt too good to be true, I asked her to be my girlfriend. I didn't hesitate. I was all in. But she asked me to keep it private, something I hadn't expected. She didn't want the world to know about our relationship, and to be honest, I didn't care. I was just happy to be with her. The next year, everything changed. We moved in together despite the disapproval of my parents. They didn't understand our relationship and they were vocal about it. They had their own expectations for me, their own plans for my future. But I was happy. I was with Lila, and that was all that mattered to me. Then came the accident. My dad was injured in a car accident, and suddenly, everything flipped upside down. My mom couldn't handle the stress on her own, and I had to move back in with them to help out. It wasn't a decision I wanted to make, but family came first. It was a temporary move, I told myself, but it was hard. I hadn't realized just how much I had distanced myself from my parents over the past year, especially since they never really accepted my relationship with Lila. Living with them again felt like I was taking a step backward, like I was a teenager again, unsure of who I was or where I was going. I missed Lila, but I also felt a strange sense of responsibility toward my parents. They needed me. But then, something unexpected happened. A few weeks after I moved back in with my parents, Lila told me she was pregnant. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I always thought I'd be a father one day, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't even sure I wanted to be a father at this point in my life. I was still figuring things out, still struggling to find my place. Lila wasn't the type to be uncertain. She wanted to have the baby and she wanted me to move back in with her. I didn't know how to respond. I couldn't just walk away, but I wasn't ready to drop everything and take on the responsibility of being a father, especially with the way my parents were still so critical of everything I did. Things began to spiral from there. Lila grew more distant, giving me the silent treatment whenever I tried to talk about the future. It was clear she wasn't happy with how things were going. And then one night she gave me an ultimatum: my parents or her and the baby. That was the moment it all came crashing down. I knew what she was asking me to choose, but I couldn't. I loved my parents. They had always been there for me even when I didn't want them to be. But I also loved Lila. She was carrying my child. I couldn't deny that part of me wanted to be with her and build a future together, but another part of me was terrified. In the end, I made the choice. I chose my parents. I wasn't ready to be a father, not yet. I needed time to figure things out. And with that, Lila and I were done. She hasn't responded to any of my texts since. Maybe it was the right choice, maybe it wasn't. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just lost something important. Something that could have been everything.